Part 18. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 171. Mr. Zhang said with a sullen face, "She is still your mother even after the family is separated. You are still the daughter-in-law of my Zhang family. If you don't take care of anyone, do you want me to be an old man?" Chen Shi sneered, "Father, that's not what you said when you split up the family. If you treat me as Jiang's family, why wouldn't you give me a piece of copper? When you need me, I'm the Zhang family. When I divide the money, I am an outsider, how can there be such a reason in the world?" She picked up the pole again and went into the kitchen, and before entering the door, she threw a sentence, "If I don't do it, you should just think that I have remarried." Mr. Zhang stood under the eaves and trembled with anger. He suddenly felt that everything, and everyone in the family, was out of control. The second child, Zhang Rong, died of his son, and now he is not stingy. The second daughter-in-law didn't know if she really couldn't get up, or if she was cheating. The third daughter-in-law can't afford to lose any money. In this family, it seems that everyone has complaints, and these complaints are directed at their old couple. He was so hungry now that his chest was on his back, but he couldn't even get a bite to eat. The old man held back his anger and shouted, "Shiro!" Shiro impatiently agreed in the room, "What do you do?" The old man Zhang said solemnly, "Go to Daya's house, call her back, and let her serve her grandma for a few days." Shiro muttered something, and walked out of the room. It was almost noon when Shiro came back. He came back alone, and he said angrily to the old man, "Daya, her in-law's family won't let her come back, and she said that our family is not good, so don't bring it to her." Mr. Zhang finally couldn't help crying, and stomped his feet hard. "My God, what kind of sin have I done? Why is this family like this?" Joshi was still in a coma on the bed. The medicine he ordered this morning was made by Zhang Huajian, and he fed it himself. The old woman was wet again just now, and there was a smell of urine in the room, and he wouldn't change the old woman's clothes. Mr. Zhang whimpered and cried for a while, then suddenly stood under the eaves and shouted, "Second and third, get out of here. Eldest daughter-in-law, come here too and discuss your mother's affairs." Chen Shi frowned in the room, and then dawdled out for a while. After going out and entering the upper room, Mr. Zhang sat on the head, and Zhang Rong and Zhang Hua also sat in the room. Chen Shi sat by the door, and then heard the old man say, "You have all seen the situation of your mother now. It must be taken care of. From now on, the eldest daughter-in-law, the second daughter-in-law, and the third daughter-in-law will each take a day's turn to decoct and feed your mother, as well as change and wash. Second child, go back and tell your wife that you have to get up and do things tomorrow, and you can't just lie down like this. Today, the eldest daughter-in-law will turn first. I put my words here, if anyone doesn't do it, get out of this house for me. Don't want family property in the future." After saying that, Mr. Zhang waved his hand, "Go away." Zhang Rong and Zhang Hua slipped away. Chen Shi got up and said coldly, "Father, I'll explain to the family first, and I'll come later." Chen Shi went back to the east wing to talk to Gu Yunjiao and Zhang Yuzi, and then went to the upper room. "When I entered the house, I smelled the smell of urine." Chen rummaged through the boxes to find Zhou's clothes, and washed her with water again. In the evening, Mrs. Lu cooked dinner. On the second day, Mrs. Yang also got up from the bed, cooked, and took care of Mrs. Zhou. The order of the Zhang family seemed to be back to normal again, except for the Zhou family, who was still in a coma. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 172. Zhou was in a coma for 3 days in a row. On the third day, Mr. Zhang couldn't bear it anymore, and asked Zhang Hua to invite Dr. Lu from the city. Dr. Lu asked about the situation, took the pulse, and pierced Zhou's arm and leg with a needle. While there was no response, there was still a reflex. He shook his head and said, if this person can wake up, he is a hemiplegia and will lie on the bed later. Can't wake up, that's what happened these days. When old man Zhang heard this, he became anxious, then how can I wake up? Dr. Lu pondered for a moment, I have to use musk to refresh my mind. When old man Zhang heard that it was helpful, then use it. Dr. Lu is a careful person, and said deliberately, the Wang family pharmacy has the best musk, 3 taels of silver per gram. If you always decide to use it, I will give you a prescription. When Mr. Zhang heard 3 taels of silver per gram, his mouth trembled. Here, how many grams does this cost? Dr. Lu stroked his beard, I have to use 2 or 3 grams anyway. The old man calculated in his heart, gritted his teeth, use it? Dr. Lu nodded, then I will prescribe it. After the prescription was prescribed, Zhang Hua followed Dr. Lu back to the city and grabbed the medicine. The next day after taking the medicine, Zhou Shi woke up. Mr. Zhang almost cried with joy. However, when Zhou Shi woke up, he was just awake. His eyes were dead, and he couldn't speak. Feed her porridge, she knows how to eat it. Pulled on the bed after eating. Lu took care of him for a day, and when he returned to the room at night, he couldn't help but muttered, what's the use of waking up after spending so much money? It's not as good as that. Zhang Hua heard her glaring at her fiercely, but said nothing. After a few days, Zhou Shi gradually got better and could make a sound, but his speech was slurred. This day, it was Mrs. Chen's turn to take care of it. Mrs. Zhou kept talking about something. Mrs. Chen listened carefully for a long time, and finally understood what Mrs. Zhou said, medicine, take medicine. Since I woke up after taking Dr. Liu's medicine that day, I haven't taken any more medicine. Dr. Liu said that Zhou's condition is not serious, and the serious one will die. This disease will be better if he continues to take medicine, but that's it, he will still be paralyzed. Chen Shi heard Zhou Shi's words clearly, he smiled, lowered his head and said in her ear, you want to take medicine? But don't you have money at home? How can you have money to take medicine? Stop shouting, there is no shouting. Zhou Shi became more and more anxious, and said a lot of yi-yi-wu in his mouth. Chen Shi smiled, what, mother, you said there is silver in that box. I can't, our Saburo broke his leg, so you gave me more than 100 pennies. You know, it's already spent a dozen or two for your illness. She lowered her voice, if it costs more money, I'm afraid my father will not be able to bear it. Zhou Shi whimpered, tears streaming from the corners of his eyes. Chen's heart was very happy. She lifted up Zhou's clothes and wiped her body. While wiping, she said with a task, why is there a piece of green here? Yo, not only that, there is also a piece of purple here. Is it the second daughter-in-law? Or the third daughter-in-law? Zhou Shi yelled again. Chen Shi nodded, I see, the second wife and the third wife have been pinched. Alas, these unfilial things will be struck by thunder in the future. She paused, although I hate you, I'm not like them, who would make such a bad hand. While wiping Zhou Shi's body, she chuckled, also, I guess Yun Jiao has a way to save you. But you always scold her, beat her, and don't treat her like a human being. She hates you so much that she won't save her if you can. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 173. At this time, Mrs. Zhou hurriedly spit out a series of vague words. Mrs. Chen leaned in and listened. What, you said to give all the money to Yun Jiao and let her save you? Ha 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 ha. Chen Shi burst out laughing, don't you remember, Yun Jiao took 500 taels of silver to save her sister a few days ago. Do you think she would value your little money? She then turned Joshi over and wiped the back, and said with a smile, tell me, why do you do it? If you were nicer to Yun Xiao, that child is more affectionate and righteous, you wouldn't be at this point now. Joshi didn't speak any more, but the tears flowed more urgently. Mrs. Chen wiped Mrs. Zhou's body, changed her clothes, and then lowered her head and said, if you want to pull it, remember to call me, don't let me wash your clothes and bedding for you. They both pinch you. You hurt them, but don't hurt me. I don't know if Zhou really listened to Chen's words, but when Yang was serving her the next day, she pulled up again. Yang didn't change her either, and sneered, you think I don't know? You are trying to hurt me, so I won't change it for you. Anyway, it's not me who is uncomfortable. Joshi shouted in the room and called the old man in. The old man approached and asked, what's wrong? Zhou's words were unclear, and the complaint was difficult. The old man listened to it several times before he understood. He scolded Yang for a while, and Yang had to reluctantly close the door to change Zhou's clothes. Yang took off Zhou's little clothes and pinched her leg again. Joshi said with a crooked mouth, you pinch me again, and I will pull the bed. This sentence was very clear, and Yang was startled. She snorted, hee hee, do you still want to pinch me? Then let's try it and see who is powerful. Just as Zhou and his sons were fighting wits and courage, the weather was getting colder every day, and the new year was approaching. Gu Yunjiao counted the time. The splint on Zhang Yuzi's leg had been beaten for more than 3 months, and it was supposed to be removed. After breakfast, Gu Yunjiao removed the splint for Zhang Yuzi. Everyone in the room watched eagerly. Gu Yunjiao untied the splint and touched it first, feeling that there was no problem with the healing of the bones. Chen Shi asked eagerly, how is it? Have you grown up? Gu Yunjiao nodded, she looks pretty good. But it takes about a year for the bones to fully grow. Don't lift heavy objects within a year, don't be too tired, there will be no problem. Chen Shi still couldn't believe it, does this mean that you won't be lame? Gu Yunjiao nodded vigorously. Chen Shi was overjoyed, San Lang, hurry up and take 2 steps. Zhang Yuzi was supported by Chen Shi and a tie from left to right, and Chen Shi carefully released his hand, can you stand firm? Zhang Yuzi nodded, but he stood firm, but he didn't dare to take a step for a while. This leg has not been used for a long time, and I don't quite listen to the command. Gu Yunjiao motioned for him to hold the table, you walk slowly while holding onto something, and then let go after a few days of getting used to it. Without the splint, his legs were much lighter, and Zhang Yuzi stumbled while leaning on the table. Chen Shi looked worried, is this lame or not? In a few days, Chen found that his worries were unnecessary. Zhang Yuzi could walk without crutches and without holding onto something, but he walked slowly. He walked in front, and Chen Shi watched carefully from behind, lest Zhang Yuzi had one long leg and one short leg. After looking at it for a long time, Mrs. Chen felt that there was nothing wrong with her son's shoulders on both sides of walking. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 174. After his legs were able to walk, Zhang Yuzi adjusted for 2 days, and then went to the county seat. Go in the morning and return in the evening. He got out of the carriage and walked in with a small package. In the upper room, Mrs. Lu was urinating for Mrs. Zhou, and the old man was smoking dry cigarettes under the porch against the cold wind. Seeing Zhang Yuzi walking in smoothly, the old man was so shocked that the cigarette stick in his hand almost fell. He couldn't help but ask, San Lang, are your legs okay? Zhang Yuzi smiled at him, okay. The old man stared at Zhang Yuzi in a daze, and the remorse in his heart almost drowned him. Should not be separated, should not be separated. Zhang Yuzi took the package into the kitchen. The whole family stayed in the kitchen. The weather is cold and the kitchen is warm. Gu Yunjiao was cooking while Chen Shi sat on the side sewing clothes. Gu Chuan and Sanya sat by the stove and made a fire. Atai and Rokuro drew grids on the ground and played diagonal chess with black and white stones. Zhang Yuzi went in and put down his burden, took the spatula in Gu Yunjiao's hand. "I'll fry it." Gu Yunjiao gladly stepped aside and stood by to watch. His wrists fluttered, and he looked like he was there. What was being fried in the pot was double-cooked pork. It didn't take too long to fry it. Gu Yunjiao saw that it was almost done, and said, "It's all right." Zhang Yuzi put out the dishes, turned his head and called Rokuro, "Move the table and chairs, take the chopsticks and take the bowl." Lu Lang and Atai ran away. Gu Yunjiao hurriedly stopped them. "Wash your hands first, after touching the ground for so long, it's dirty." Rokuro and Atai washed their hands and went to the main room to move the table. The two ran back and forth a few times and took the dishes and dishes. Atai also brought the charcoal basin over. The door of the main room was closed, there was no wind in the room, the brazier was placed under the table, and the family ate lively. Mr. Zhang stood outside the main room, listening to the voices and laughter in the room. He didn't know what it was like. He has been here for a long time, and he intends to come over to have a few words with Saburo to get in touch with his feelings. When I came over, I saw Saburo from the window actually cooking. And Chen didn't even tell him. How could a man go to the kitchen? Then he saw Rokuro also helping with things. And when they were eating, the family spoke very casually, and it seemed that there was no superiority or inferiority. The old man thought this was outrageous. But he suddenly thought of his own home. The dinner table in their family has always been depressed. Either everyone is silent, desperately grabbing the food, or listening to Joe's scolding. There is never a time for laughter. Mr. Zhang stood outside for a while, then left sadly. After eating, Zhang Yuzi motioned for Gu Yunjiao to follow her into the house. Gu Yunjiao entered the room and saw that he took out a 10-tael of silver from his bag. Zhang Yuzi was a little embarrassed. "You are supporting this family now. I'm a man, and I should have been the one to support the family. I know that the money is a little short. You can use it to supplement the family first, and I'll find a way to earn it later." Gu Yunjiao took the money and said strangely, "Where did you get the money?" A strange blush flashed across Zhang Yuzi's face. "You don't need to worry about it. In short, leave the support of your family to me in the future, and save the money you earn for your private house." Gu Yunjiao saw that he didn't say anything, and didn't ask any further. She put the silver in her arms and smiled. "Well, I'll depend on you from now on." Zhang Yuzi then went to Chen's room again. Chen's was still sewing clothes. When he saw Zhang Yuzi coming in, he put down his work and said with a smile, "What are you looking for?" "The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jinkui. Chapter 175. Zhang Yuzi thought about it and said seriously, "After the new year, I plan to go to Fukan to study." Chen Shi was overjoyed. "Go to Fukan? Well, the master of Fukan is definitely better than here." Zhang Yuzi sat down beside Chen's and said slowly, "But I don't worry about my family when I go. I want my mother to go with me." Chen Shi said in surprise, "I'll go with you? Don't you have to bring Liaolang and Sanya?" Zhang Yuzi nodded. "That's what I mean, our whole family goes to Fukan, I go to the academy to study, Yunjiao sees a doctor and Liaolang and Xiao Chuan go to the academy." Chen Shi was speechless. "How much money do you have to spend in that month?" "We're all using Yunjiao's money now, this." Zhang Yuzi was silent. "There is no other way for now. I owe Yunjiao, I can only pay it back slowly." Chen Shi hesitated. "Do you really want to go?" Zhang Yuzi nodded. "There is no land at home, where is the life different?" Chen Shi waved his hand. "You don't understand. If you go to Fukan to rent a house, you will need an extra expense. I heard that everything in Fukan is expensive. I'm afraid it will cost 1 or 2 taels of silver a month. Even if I embroider every day, I can't earn so much in a month. Mother still won't go, I'll take Lu Lang and Sanya at home. Zhang Yuzi's eyes flashed slightly, forget it, if mother doesn't go, I won't go either. Chen Shi was anxious, why don't you go, it would be great to go to Fukan to study, the masters of Fukan are not ordinary people, besides, it will be good for you to get to know a few more classmates in the future. She thought about it for a while, then gritted her teeth, it's done, go, and my mother will give it up. As long as you can make a living, the money you spend will always be earned back in the future. Zhang Yuzi smiled, mother thinks that's right. Don't worry, mother, I will work hard to earn money in the future. He thought for a while, then let's celebrate the new year, and leave for Fukan on the third day of junior high. Chen Shi said in surprise, in such a hurry, it's too late to pack up. You know that this time is already over. Zhang Yuzi said meaningfully, this family is not peaceful either, leave early, good morning. In the next few days, Chen Shi was sometimes depressed and sometimes excited. Gu Yunjiao saw it and found an opportunity to ask Zhang Yuzi, did you tell your mother? Zhang Yuzi nodded, I said, what should be cleaned up quickly, let's set off on the third day of junior high. The road leads me to finish it. I also hired 3 cars. Gu Yunjiao became happy, Saburo was really good at handling things, okay, then we will set off on the third day of the first year. Soon it will be New Year's Eve. Early in the morning, Mr. Zhang came to the East Wing in person, facing Zhang Yuzi very kindly, although we are separated, we are still a family. It's 30 today, why do we have to eat together this New Year's dinner? Zhang Yuzi nodded with a smile, that's right, Grandpa is right, I'll definitely go over later. Mrs. Chen didn't want to go, but the old man came to invite him in person, and it was not good if he didn't go, so he had to agree. Gu Yunjiao didn't come out from the back room, the old man said specially, where's Yunjiao, remember to tell Yunjiao that she must go. Gu Yunjiao just pretended not to hear it in the room. When the old man left, Sanya whispered, I don't want to go to their house for dinner, Wulang and the others are too good at grabbing food, and I can't grab them. Gu Yunjiao chuckled, it's alright then, just do it and pretend, we'll be back later, let's eat by ourselves. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 176. When it was almost noon, Kilang ran over and shouted, Auntie, Brother Saburo, it's time to eat. Both Chen's and Zhang Yuzi got up, and Zhang Yuzi walked to the kitchen and took a look. Gu Yunjiao was sitting by the stove, and seeing him look over, Gu Yunjiao waved to him. Chen Shi and Zhang Yuzi took Liaolang Sanya to the room. The eyes of everyone who entered the house fell on them. These 4 people wore new cotton-padded jackets with a single color of muslin cloth. The cotton-padded jackets were thick and looked warm. Sanya was wearing a safflower jacket with 2 red velvet flowers on her head. It was a world of difference from the Sanya who always wore gray clothes. Especially since the family has been eating meat for several months, Liaolang, Sanya, and Zhang Yuzi have all jumped up. The whole family stood there, white and chubby, clean and enviable. Seeing that, Mrs. Yang said sourly, Yo, if I didn't say this, I thought it was a rich man from somewhere. My sister-in-law's life is really good. I just picked up a daughter-in-law who can make money. Chen Shi smiled, that's right, my daughter-in-law here is no match for an ordinary man. Mr. Zhang looked out, where's Yunjiao, why didn't you come? Zhang Yuzi smiled, Grandpa, she said that there is still a younger brother, so she won't come to disturb him. Mr. Zhang waved his hand vigorously, call us together, it's just a matter of adding a pair of chopsticks. Zhang Yuzi waved his hand, forget it, let's eat. The food is all set on the table. Even Joe was carried out of the bed by Zhang Hua. She reclined on an armchair with a quilt tucked around her so that it wouldn't slip. Zhang Hua ran to the yard and set off a bunch of firecrackers, then closed the door for dinner. The table is made up of 2 square tables. It is rare to have a bowl of stewed radish with meat, and a fish. Both meat dishes are placed in front of Joshi. Joshi is better now, and can pick up vegetables with one hand. Zhang Yuzi was pulled by Mr. Zhang to his side and sat down. The Chen family and the others were squeezed to the farthest place from the 2 meat dishes. Mr. Zhang, who was at the top, first took a chopstick and put the fish into Joe's bowl, and everyone on the table started to move. The meat stewed with radish and the fish is the target of the whole family's attack. Most of the people at the nearby table stood up, and all of them poked their chopsticks in front of Joshi. Rokuro has not seen such a scene for a long time, and he almost forgot how to grab the food. Sanya was already prepared, sitting there without moving. She didn't plan to eat. Chen Shi and Sanya looked at each other, and Chen Shi said silently, "Don't rob them, we'll go back and eat by ourselves later. There are chickens, ducks, and fish in the house, so there is no need to rob them." The radish stew soon had only radishes left in it. In the blink of an eye, only 1 fish bone remained. Rokuro looked at the cabbage sauce radish on the table, and he lost his appetite at all. Holding the bowl, he moved his butt back and forth. He wanted to go home and eat chicken now, but he also knew that it would be rude to leave as soon as he sat down. Rokuro boiled a stick of incense for a long time, and finally put down the bowl. Sanya also put down the bowl, and the 2 stood up. "Grandpa and Grandma, use it slowly, we're full." Yang's probe glanced at their bowls. "Yo, what are you eating? A bowl of rice is still a bowl of rice. Why, you don't like our dishes, do you?" Shiro snorted from the side. "They eat meat every day, so naturally they don't look down on this oily water." The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 177. Chen Shi hurriedly gave Lu Lang a wink, and Lu Lang took Sanya out. Mr. Zhang glanced at the 2 bowls of rice that had not moved at all on the table, and suddenly burst into tears. Zhang Rong frowned. "Father, why are you crying during the New Year?" Mr. Zhang shook his head. "Dad also wants you to eat meat every day, but Daddy only has so much ability. I really can't afford it." He suddenly grabbed Zhang Yuzi next to him. "San Lang, our family depends on you. When you become an official in the future, we will be able to eat meat as well." Zhang Yuzi said with a smile, "That's what it is. If I am successful in the future, I must be filial to Grandpa." Grandpa Zhang was very relieved to hear this, and patted Zhang Yuzi's hand. "Grandpa didn't hurt you in vain." Zhang Yuzi didn't move his chopsticks much, and he sat patiently for a while before getting up to leave. Chen Shi came out behind Zhang Yuzi, and the 2 hurried into the kitchen. In the kitchen, chicken is braised on a large stove, and braised pork is braised on a small stove. Rokuro squatted in front of the braised pork and drooled. Zhang Yuzi came in to pick up the chicken, rolled up his sleeves and started frying the fish. Then I cooked 2 more side dishes. I have to say that people are smart and learn everything quickly, and now Zhang Yuzi's cooking level has caught up with Gu Yunjiao. When the food was put on the table, Zhang Yuzi and Lu Lang also set up a string of firecrackers outside, and then the family closed the door to eat the New Year's dinner. Halfway through the meal, I heard another commotion in the upper room. Everyone eats and listens to the big play. The old man roared, Who took the money from that box?" Then I heard Zhang Hua ask, "Dad, how much money did you lose?" The old man was anxiously circling the room. "More than 30 taels of silver, this is what I have saved all my life." He just opened the box and wanted to get some copper coins for the medicine, so that he could give the New Year's money later. He took a look at the box and found that the few coins in it were all gone. He didn't have to think about it, he knew that it must be a thief. Yang Shi suddenly said, Do you have so much money at home? When I wanted to save Erlang, how did Dad say that he had no money? The old man's eyes flickered. Your mother keeps all the money, how do I know? Isn't it because she is ill? I just know that she has saved so much. Mr. Yang snorted. Who would believe what the old man said? Mr. Zhang looked at them one by one. He felt that everyone was avoiding his gaze, and all his children and grandchildren looked like thieves. Mr. Jiang's eyes finally stayed on Zhang Rong. He knew what kind of virtue his son was, and Zhang Erlang had the same virtue as Zhang Rong. Zhang Rong squinted at him at the moment, the corners of his mouth curled up, with indescribable pride. Sitting at the table, Mrs. Zhou vigorously raised her movable hand and pointed at Zhang Rong. It's you, it's you. Mr. Zhang walked over, his eyes gloomy. Take out the silver. Zhang Rong sneered. Father, I didn't take any money. You are so old, how can you talk nonsense? Seeing his generous smile, Mr. Zhang raised his hand and slapped his face in anger. Zhang Rong stood up straight, reached out and grabbed the old man's wrist. The old man looked at him in disbelief. You dare to do something with me? Zhang Rong threw off the old man's hand indifferently, and then left the upper room swaggeringly. The old man clutched his chest. No, we can't live like this, we can't live like this. He looked at Zhang Hua. Separate the family, wait for the new year to break up. Our two elders live with your 3 bedrooms. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 178. Zhang Hua secretly rejoiced. If the 2 elders followed him, in 100 years in the future, the property in their hands and the upper house would be his. He exchanged glances with Mrs. Liu, and stepped forward to support the old man. Father, don't be angry with my second brother, he doesn't seem to have a normal mind now. Gu Yunjiao and the others finished their New Year's dinner amid the noise of going upstairs. In the evening, Mrs. Chen generously lit 2 pots of charcoal fire, and the whole family sat in the main room to keep the fire warm. Zhang Yuzi announced, by the way, in 2 days, that is, the 3rd day of junior high, our family will go away. Rokuro likes to run outside the most, and he said happily when he heard the words, where are you going? Zhang Yuzi smiled, go to Fukan. Rokuro almost went crazy with joy. Great, great, I heard that Fukan is fun, it's the best and best place. Gu Chuan said disapprovingly from the side, who said that the capital is the best place? Gu Yunjiao smiled and watched several children fight. Zhang Yuzi sat beside the fire and peeled the melon seeds silently. After a while, he peeled off a bunch of them, put them in a small plate, and silently handed them to Gu Yunjiao. Gu Yunjiao became more and more satisfied with this little uncle, took it over with a smile, and ate slowly. On the first day of the next day, the Zhang family was deserted. In the last year of the Zhang family, without Dalin and Erlang, they could not visit relatives during the Chinese New Year. Chen Shi just didn't go out, and spent 2 days in a row arranging things at home, and he had already packed a few big burdens. Gu Yunjiao also packed up her own and Gu Chuan's things. On the 2nd night of junior high, the family went to bed early. At the time of Yin Shi, 4 o'clock, the Chen family got up. She fried a bunch of pancakes with egg flour, and then Zhang Yuzi also got up, ate the pancakes, and helped clean up the kitchen. Gu Yunjiao and Sanya also got up. Get up and pack the quilt on the bed first, then go to the kitchen to eat pancakes after washing up. At the beginning of Mao Shi, Lu Er's car came over. He shouted twice outside. Zhang Yuzi hurriedly went out and opened the courtyard gate. The carriage rushed in, and then 2 other carriages came. Lu Er and the 2 coachmen helped to carry things up. Large iron pot, chopping board, kitchen knife, and even the medicine jar Chen Shi also brought. There is no shed for a car, so it just happens to be carrying luggage, and all the pots, pans, bowls and boxes are piled up there. Lu Er's car and the other car are covered with sheds. There are some quilts in the 2 cars, just for people. When the big guy was moving back and forth, Yang Shi, who got up to make breakfast, came out of the house yawning. She saw the 3 carriages in the yard for a while, then turned around and went in and called Zhang Rong, head of the house, "Get up quickly, the people in the big room are going to run." Zhang Rong sat up from the bed in a daze. "What?" Yang Shi was anxious. "The big house is moving, and everything is piled up on the carriage, so hurry up and take a look." Zhang Rongzi got up, put on his clothes, and ran out to take a look. Good guy, 3 carriages, one of which was carrying luggage, was already piled high. He hurried over and grabbed Zhang Yuzi, who was putting the quilt on the car. "San Lang, where are you going?" Zhang Yuzi smiled at him. "I plan to go to Fukan to study." Zhang Rongdao, "Study?" He pointed to the iron pot on the other car. "Do you still need to bring an iron pot to school?" Zhang Yuzi broke free from his hand and said lightly, "Mother will follow me to take care of me. There are 4 chapters left at noon." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 179. Zhang Rong sneered with a crooked mouth. "San Lang, you're not being kind. Are you going to leave the whole family behind and fly to the top by yourself?" One of Zhang Yu raised his eyebrows. "Where is the second uncle, who stipulated that I can't go out to study?" Zhang Rong sneered twice, stood in the yard and shouted, "Dad, Daddy, come out and have a look, the big family is going to run away." Gu Yunjiao glanced at Zhang Rong and rolled her eyes. "What does it mean to run away? They are not fugitives." The light for going to the room soon turned on. The old man came out wearing a padded jacket and was startled when he saw the situation. While tying his clothes, he hurried over. "San Lang, where are you going?" Zhang Yuzi smiled gently. "Grandpa, I plan to go to Fukan to study. There is no land in the house." Mother and the others also followed. "There is also a family to take care of." What the old man thought was wrong. "Why didn't you tell me beforehand that you are going to study?" Zhang Yuzi blinked. "Look at me, I've been busy recently, so I forgot." "Don't worry, Grandpa, I'll write back when I get to Fukan." If he didn't say it, he wasn't just worried about what happened to them. Zhang Rong sneered. He, Saburo, stop coaxing us, I think you're eager to dump us." Zhang Yuzi looked at Zhang Rong in surprise. "What do you mean dumping you? Even if we split up, my surname is still Zhang. You are my second uncle, and Grandpa is my own grandfather." "Second uncle, what nonsense are you talking about?" Zhang Hua also ran out of the room at this time. He hadn't figured out the situation yet, so he stood by and watched. Zhang Rong blurted out a sentence. "You're not the seed of our family. If you're gone, will you still take care of us?" Zhang Yuzi's face changed. "Second uncle, what did you say?" Mr. Zhang stomped his feet beside him. "Second, what nonsense are you talking about?" Zhang Rong's words had already been spoken, so he didn't hide it at all. Dalala said, "You were picked up by my elder brother, so I'll just say it directly. You must repay the kindness of our family for raising you." Zhang Yuzi lowered his face and turned to look at Chen. "Chen," she pointed at Zhang Rong, "second brother, how did I tell you that day? You are crazy, what do you do with these things?" Zhang Yuzi's expression was extremely complicated, but his heart was calm. He has long known that he is not the child of the Zhang family. He was smart since he was a child, and sometimes people joked that he didn't look like his father or mother, so he kept his mind and had some vague doubts. When his father died, he told the old man about his life experience, and he heard it all outside the door. Therefore, over the years, he is very clear, whether the old man, the so-called second uncle and third uncle, their so-called family affection is only for the future reward. That's why he could use the Zhao family's hand to kill Zhang Erlang without hesitation. He knew that only Chen Shi Liaolang Sanya really took him as a relative. Exposing it at this time made him heave a sigh of relief. He really hates Jiang's grandmother and the second and third bedrooms. It's okay to say it, and from now on, they can't talk about things in the guise of their relatives. Zhang Rong he at this time, I won't mention it again, this kid will run away. Then isn't our family raising him for nothing? Zhang Yuzi looked at Zhang Rong coldly, I co-authored Jiang's family to raise me just so that I can repay you. Zhang Rong laughed and said, why not? Chen Shi was anxious, San Lang, don't listen to his nonsense, mother doesn't want you to pay anything in return, as long as you live well in the future. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 180. Zhang Rong glanced at Chen Shi, it doesn't matter what you said. He grew up eating rice from our Zhang family. If he dares not to repay us, he will be ungrateful. The old man didn't speak anymore. Zhang Hua's eyes flickered beside him. Zhang Yuzi nodded, I see. I don't know what kind of return the second uncle wants. Zhang Rong said carelessly, don't say more, I'll give you hundreds of thousands of taels of silver. Zhang Yuzi laughed, it cost me hundreds of thousands of taels for the Zhang family. Mr. Zhang stomped his feet anxiously beside him, second, stop talking. Zhang Rongshu was short-sighted and only knew that he wanted money. If Saburo became an official in the future, what would money be? Arrange an errand for the family casually, it is impossible to be short of silver flowers. The important thing is that the whole family can follow suit. The old man smoothed things out, San Lang, don't listen to your second uncle. Although it's not easy for our family to support you, we're not talking about money. Zhang Yuzi nodded, I will definitely give the money. However, the second uncle also knows that I have been recuperating at home for so long, and now I can't get any money. In the future, I will definitely pay back what should be returned to the Zhang family. At this time, Gu Yunjiao entered the house and pulled out the last package and put it into the carriage. She looked up at the sky and said to Zhang Yuzi, it's getting late, you have to go. Zhang Yuzi ignored Zhang Rong and helped the driver to cover the luggage with tarpaulin and tied it up. After doing this, Zhang Yuzi checked around, locked the door, and stepped on the horse stool to get into the car. At this moment, Zhang Rong grabbed him, you can't go. Zhang Yuzi was staggered by him and almost fell. Chen Shi was startled, ran over quickly, and shouted at Zhang Rong, what did you do with him, he almost fell. Gu Yunjiao had already got into the car, but got out of the car again, San Lang, are your legs okay? Zhang Yuzi shook his head, it's okay. He turned to look at Zhang Rong, is the second uncle going to force me to ask for money now? Zhang Rong snorted, it is best to give money. Otherwise, if you're gone, where am I going to find you? Zhang Yuzi smiled, silver, I don't have it now. He turned to look at Mr. Zhang, it doesn't matter if I'm the biological child of my parents or not. As you said, I grew up eating rice from the Zhang family. Don't worry, Grandpa, I will definitely repay the Zhang family's kindness for raising me. After he finished speaking, he knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to Mr. Zhang, then turned around and got into the car. Zhang Rong stopped him again, no, you can't go. You have to give us an explanation. Zhang Yuzi looked at Zhang Rong coldly, you said, what kind of explanation do you want? Zhang Rong rolled his eyes, I don't want much, I'll give you 500 taels first, and I'll talk about the rest later. He glanced at Gu Yunjiao who was standing next to him, if you don't have it, you can ask someone to borrow it. Your family has a big rich man. Gu Yunjiao looked at the sky silently beside her, this person is really interesting, and her idea even hit her. Zhang Yuzi looked at Zhang Rong coldly, this is about me and the Zhang family, don't involve other people. He turned to old man Zhang and said, Grandpa, I can't get the 500 taels of silver. I don't think the rice that Jiang's family raised me is worth so much. I am willing to write an IOU of 200 taels of silver. In the future, anyone in the Jiang family can use this IOU to ask me for money. How does Grandpa feel?